Thanks for joining us for the Brand Influencer Fit panel. We're going to talk about brands and influencers and how it all works together. I'm your moderator, Josh Levine. I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves. If you would tell us who you are and why you're here. Give us a quick blurb on what you do, what your company does.
My name's Nick Kinports, and I head up an agency called Notice. We specialize in content marketing, video specifically, but also just integrated advertising.
Hi, I'm Jennifer DeAngelis. I'm a senior digital producer at Murphy O'Brien. I started the digital division at my company 3 years ago. I worked on Hilton Worldwide, the Golden Globes, Macaroni Grill, and also worked with a lot of notable influencers like the Guam Salad. So I'm just excited to be here and chat a little bit about Influencer Fit.
Hi everyone, my name is Kyle Wong. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Pixely. And what we do is we help brands market using real customer photos, work with brands like Old Navy, Levi's, Kimpton Hotels, Carnival Cruises, etc. I'm here also because I also write for Forbes, and one of the topics I cover is influencer marketing.
I'm Marissa Vance, and just in time I found the microphone. Look
Perfect.
at that. I am a director of content and entertainment at OMD. We're right across the street. We're a division of Omnicom, and I've been with them for about 25 years.
Nice. So I'm Josh Levine. I'm CEO of an agency called Rebel Industries. We do social media and experiential marketing for consumer brands of all shapes and sizes. I also host a podcast called Rebel Radio, where I talk to entrepreneurs who are helping to shape youth culture, so DJs, graffiti artists, streetwear designers, anybody that's kind of making an impact on youth. So I kind of have I think micro-influencer is a generous term. I have a very small but devoted following. So I'm learning about the influencer business from that side, as well as working with brands to engage with influencers. Before we get into it, who are you all? Do we have any influencers in the room? Marketers, agency folks, content creators? What are you guys doing?
Content creation, distribution,
Cool.
monitoring.
Okay.
I work with Marissa. My name is Jesse, content creation as well.
Awesome. Any influencers?
I manage influencers.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we're going to say a lot of bad things about influencers, so we're glad they're not here today. But I do want to set the stage. You know, we're at an interesting time when I was at TEDx Hollywood yesterday, not to promote another conference, but one of the guys on stage said that, you know, YouTube stars are being treated like the Beatles. And we certainly see that where you know, influencer, the term influencer, I would say with a capital I, you know, has grown to such an extent where, you know, influencers are now have, in some cases, bigger reach than really well-established mainstream media outlets. I looked at, New York Times has about 30 million followers on Twitter. Kim Kardashian has 47 million. So time and a half what you know, the world's most venerated news outlet is able to achieve. And so, you know, it's a really interesting time for that, and obviously, you know, every brand, I think, to some extent, is starting to rely on influencers in different ways. I want to put a question to the panel. Why are we here talking about fit? You know, I think that's a different, we don't have that conversation necessarily when we think about other types of media. That obviously you would align the demographics, you run some reports to kind of understand that you're running ads to the right basic audience, but there's not this sort of worry about fit in the same way that there is with influencers. Anyone, feel free to take that, but tell us why that's so important.
I think fit's an interesting word because over the last 2 years, influencers have been treated like any other channel, which is coming to a quick end as we get more analytics from the platforms and we start to understand how to work with them better. But I think it's most relevant because if we don't quickly shift to kind of bringing influencers into the fold of the brand almost as guest creative directors, we start to run the risk of wasting time and effort on something that consumers sort of get, right? Just here, try my product, take a picture and post it on your Instagram and use a hashtag, right? We're sort of ending that era and entering this time where influencers come in and actually maybe create content without direction from the brand or agency. So fit becomes very important, both personality and who the audience is.
Yeah, so before we move on from that, and I definitely want to hear from the rest of the panel, but can you give us, is there a real world example when you say guest creative director? I think that's a really interesting perspective, sort of role for how that relationship can take shape. What's a real world example of that happening?
I can take this one. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Margot and me, but she's a well-known fashion and travel blogger, and we've worked with her over the years with Peninsula. It's a really high-end luxury travel brand, and she was looking to travel the world. And we were looking to have an influencer talk about our brand, so we got in a room and we chatted about ways that we could authentically fit into her travel plans. And I think, we're pivoting away from this one and done model with influencers where it's like, okay, you did a post, 250, we're done with you. It's more about creating these ongoing collaborative relationships, and I definitely build relationships with these influencers. I send them birthday gifts, I go to dinner with them, and then when I have an objective or a goal I'm trying to meet with a brand, I call them up and say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. You're way more creative, have a lot more time than I do, but how can we make this a cool collaboration? And so we decided we have peninsulas in Beverly Hills, New York, Chicago, Paris, and part of Asia. So through her world tour, she'll be stopping at the different peninsulas. So not only are we getting stepping away from the one and done, we're getting several mentions over the month, but we are also fitting into her world tour.
Cool. And to echo some of the conversation that happened in the last panel, one of the biggest changes in today's society is that a brand's message doesn't have to come from the brand anymore. And when you think about these influencers, they're not only, they're telling your brand story in a way that might be a little bit different than your brand, but it might be a little more connected to how your customers are actually using your product if you find the right ones. And today, when you think about influence, a lot of people talk about reach, but there are other variables that impact influence too, like expertise and also the overall relationship that you have with the customer. So in my opinion, the reason why fit is so important is because that expertise in that relationship with their fan base is such a big part of influence that sometimes is not taken into consideration when it comes to about picking the wrong people.
The one thing I would add, I love that concept of the influencer as a default creative director kind of visiting, but people don't like to hear the word structure and process. Here I come, right around the corner, and we can't ignore that. So these influencers are great. They do fantastic things, which we've heard a lot about, but I do think we all have to be extraordinarily cognizant and aware of what they're doing, how they're doing, and why they're doing. And having a wonderful dialogue with them. It sounds like you said you go to dinner, have a cocktail, that's lovely. Dialogue with them so that they understand what your true goals and needs and objectives are, and that they meet their brand, so that they feel comfortable, so that there's a two-way street of communication, that dialogue. So I will add little structure, little process, not bad words, remember.
There's a great article last month in Ad Age. The title was "Influencers Are People, Not Media Outlets," and it makes a strong case that's being echoed by this panel that this sort of mainstreaming of those relationships is bad for brands, for the influencers, for consumers, and really touches on something that a couple of you just mentioned about really getting to know people personally and understanding that there's a human being behind all those numbers. And maybe you guys could talk to what impact does that have, right? So, you go to dinner with an influencer. What's that do for the brands that you're working with? And maybe conversely, someone can think about what's the impact of poor fit?
So I have a really great relationship with somebody named Nicole Ciotti, and about 2 years ago, she reached out to me She was less than 100,000 followers. We represent Turtle Bay, which you may remember from Forgetting Sarah Marshall. But she wanted to come out, and it was a little bit, to give you a kind of gauge, we get about 100 incoming inquiries for people who want to stay at Turtle Bay Resort every single month. So we have to be really selective. But she sent me past examples. She showed her trajectory for her growth, and I kind of saw something in her, and I thought that she was somebody who might explode in the next few years. So kind of took a bet on her, convinced my client to have her out for a 4-night stay. She returned incredible coverage for us, and since then we've had this really great relationship where I'll be like, hey, do you want to come to La Jolla? Do you want to go to New York? And she'll tell me, hey, that's not really a brand fit for me. Or, hey, yes, I would love that. That's totally in line for me. So I think we focus on working with influencers who aren't just trying to make a dime, who understand who their brand is, and having that open dialogue to be like, that's not a fit for me, that's gonna help a lot. And I think because she doesn't hawk herself out to every such brand, people trust her third-party endorsement, which is what we're all seeking for. When we work with influencers, we want to work with somebody who, we value that opinion. It's like that friend that's like, oh, I love this restaurant. You go to the restaurant, you hate it, you're never gonna trust their opinion. So you wanna work with somebody who has good taste and recommends brands that they like. So kind of got lost in there, but I think working with people who are honest about who they are and who their brand is going to help you find the right fit for both of you.
I think there's a big opportunity building on that as well. Kind of learning about who people are, understanding what their objectives are and what they've done in the past. Also, bringing them in on the front end of innovation. So, as an agency, right, we're all about thinking of those big ideas that then translate into, at some point down the line, some consumer adoption, awareness, all those great metrics. But we also are now piloting a program in our New York office where we're doing influencer focus groups. So we are all familiar with focus group testing and messaging and product and all those things. We're now creating special groups just of influencers. And these aren't necessarily folks that we're actively saying, yes, you're going to be a part of this campaign, we're going to work with you here, but we're bringing them in and introducing them to some big ideas, introducing them to new product and new innovation, seeing how they react, and then we're handpicking the ones that are actually most interested in participating in that process and most excited about what they see and hear. We know that those folks are going to be not only thankful that they sort of were brought in the beginning, but also they're going to feel more invested in what we're doing and what our client's doing. And so we're going to get a lot more out of them, and they're going to want to kind of come back again and again for these different events for different brands. So I think it's a big opportunity to think of that influencer in a different way.
And if I could add to these already great comments, I would say that when I look at the brands that have some of the best influencer brand relationships, at the core of a lot of these relationships is trust. And trust often comes with great fit. It comes with personal relationships, but trust is so important because when you're collaborating, especially in a creative environment, when these influencers are tremendous creative storytellers, you need to have that trust because there's going to be difference of opinions. And in some ways, you can provide them structure, but you also need to allow the influencer to kind of tell that story in an authentic way that resonates with his or her audience. And without that trust, I've seen a lot of fighting, a lot of disagreements, a lot of issues associated with this content that's being produced.
Kyle, can you give us an example of a brand that's got a great trust with influencers? Or anybody.
Yeah, there's a few that I don't want to promote because they're clients of ours, but I would say that when you look at the usage of influencer marketing today, one of the things I've noticed is that there's different tiers of influencers. So based on what tier you're talking about, different brands I would recommend. Personally, I think Charlotte Russe does a really interesting job with their influencers, having a very interesting tiered approach, where you have what are called the tier ones, which are like, think of it as a really massive following people. The tier twos, which are more like the micro influencers, maybe it's exchanging of gifts or something. And tier threes, which are everyday people that are posting about the brand, but might be up and coming fashion bloggers, etc. And I think they have a very interesting mix of a blend of tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 mixes, which also keeps your budget under control as well.
Hi, I'm Josh, and we're here at Microsoft in Playa Vista, California, and we're really excited to host two amazing conferences here, the Authentic Marketing Conference and the Digital Growth Summit here in this venue in Los Angeles. But don't worry, if they've already happened, I'm going to tell you exactly how you can experience the whole conference from the convenience of your home or office. You can watch them anytime, anywhere, but let me show you the venue. Come on over here. This is where a lot of the networking happens, where a lot of the influencers, the brands, the agencies, and the digital marketers will hang out for lunch. We fully cater it all. This is where the magic happens, Zuma 1 and Zuma 2. These are really big, awesome rooms that Microsoft works with us to allow us to host our conference here. The key feature is that center wall. This room, in classroom style, allows us to divide it into two rooms. We're gonna have lots of speakers up here. There's gonna be chairs, a whole panel discussion, 4 experts, 1 moderator, deep diving into a conversation around digital marketing, influencer marketing, what brands want, all kinds of cool stuff. In this room, it's typically the engage room. That means if you're on social media, we're gonna teach you all the latest and greatest stuff right now on how to use the latest apps and stuff that you can look forward to in the next 6 months. That's our role. Over there, we call it analyze, and that's where once you've engaged, how can you look at your analytics in a wholesome way? And now our Authentic Marketing Conference is all about bringing influencers and brands and agencies together so that they're mingling and working in an authentic manner. And our Digital Growth Summit makes you a better digital marketer. Step over here and I'll show you, while all of this is happening concurrently, 2 different tracks. We also have, in this really sophisticated room over here, breakout sessions. And that's a deep dive where one speaker that breaks away from our panels will go in there and give you case studies, all kinds of cool stuff. But that's not it. There's not only a breakout session there, we have an even bigger room over there. It's awesome. 4 options at any one given time. No one person can see it all, and that's why I encourage you to look at the virtual replay ticket at MediaLeaders.com, where you can take part in all of our conferences. That's the Authentic Marketing Conference, the Digital Growth Summit LA, the Digital Growth Summit in San Francisco, and all of our past MediaLeaders.com conferences. It's a whole lot of content. It's as if you're here because you're gonna get the handouts, the notes, and all of the videos, which is really cool. I'm Josh. I'm so pumped and thankful to our friends at Microsoft for letting us do this here in Los Angeles and up in San Francisco. I look forward to seeing you at the event or seeing you on the virtual replay ticket. I'll see you soon.